While every single product out there has its own highlight, today we have one which has the best price-performance ratio in its own category. This is the Hiby R4. It has a cyberpunk and Neon Genesis Evangelion inspired design. So it's all about those hard edges, but also looking technologically advanced. And it is priced at $249, a very friendly price for the kind of performance it offers. Starting with the package, actually, we get a little case included in the package. This is a TPU case, and it will protect it from scratches, but it will also hinder you seeing the display on the back. While most of the time I would consider a display on the back being a gimmick, even for smartphones I think it is a gimmicky thing, for R4 it actually enhances the design because as you can see it has a very modern and very cyber design, but you also have a little display here at the top where you will actually be able to configure it to show different lines and different patterns. At the bottom we have the headphone outputs and the Type-C USB port. The Type-C USB port can be used for charging, transferring files, or for using the R4 as a USB dock. We have two headphone outputs, one in 3.5 single-ended format and one in 4.4mm balanced format. There is a high difference between them, so the balanced output has more than twice the power of the single-ended headphone output. It also has a higher noise floor, so you will hear more noise if you are using the balanced headphone output, but the difference in sonic quality justifies you adding a bit of background hissing for a rather high perceived increase in quality and resolution. Before we get to the sonic part, let's talk a bit about what R4 is supposed to do, and it is supposed to conquer the world with its versatility. First off, we have Android 12 and it is an open Android module, so you can basically install every single app from the Play Store. I was able to install Tidal, Spotify, and it works pretty well. It is pretty fast. It has a Snapdragon mid-range CPU, the 665. It also has 3 GB of RAM and also 32 GB of internal storage. That may sound low because it is very low, but you can expand that with a microSD card which can be as high as 2 TB. Of course, as soon as those appear on the market. Right now, we only have microSD cards up to 1 TB. Tidal integration is perfect, so it works well with my accounts. YouTube integration is perfect. There are no problems if you are using streaming or if you are using apps that need Play Store because Play Store comes installed on the Hiby R4. So there is absolutely no problem with it if you are using it in the USA or outside of China and you want to have support for all the traditional apps for streaming. The sound part is typically handled by Hiby Music, and I actually like Hiby Music so much that I'm even using it on my smartphone. It is a very good music app, but you can also have the Hiby specific enhancements from the settings. So if you go to settings and if you go to audio settings, you will have both MSEB and parametric equalizer. Both of them offer a very high degree of sonic customizability. So MSEB or Magic 8-ball equalizer will offer you an EQ profile based on the overall temperature of the sounds, so bright or dark, on the bass extension, light or deep, bass texture, fast or thumpy, note thickness, crisp or thick. The voices can either be recessed or forward. You can go for sibilance soft or crisp. You can go for impulse response slow or fast, or for air, so you can set the sound to be soft or crisp. It offers something that other players don't. So this type of equalization is not available on any other DAP on the market. On the other hand, with parametric equalizer, you can basically configure a standard parametric equalizer, which is the usual, but it is very effective. It also affects the DAP system-wide. There is bit-perfect Android support, so you will not get your data cut if you are using Tidal or streaming applications, which is very nice because some other DAPs just don't have this and smartphones don't have this at all. So while most DAPs try to have some sort of bit-perfect playback for the entire Android system or optimizations at the system level, Android smartphones simply don't. So if you are using a Samsung smartphone like I am, you will not get bit perfect playback for the entire Android system. You can even play games on the R4, but it has a pretty small display. Speaking of the display, it is very crisp and sharp, but the maximum brightness is not very high. So while with most DAPs I have to crank down the maximum brightness to take B-rolls and to film them, with Hiby R4 I can have it at maximum and it looks natural. This is the maximum brightness that it can go for. It looks slightly washed out on my camera, which means that in nature it will be slightly dim, so especially in daylight you will be able to see it, but it won't feel very bright like for example, a smartphone with a very bright display. The Wi-Fi speed is very good. We have Bluetooth, and it is a bi-directional Bluetooth, so it can act as a Bluetooth transmitter for a pair of wireless EMs or as a Bluetooth receiver. So I can stream data from my smartphone to Hiby R4 and it will work just fine. We have LDAC, aptX, aptX HD, and even a new protocol developed by Hiby Music, which is supposed to give you lossless Bluetooth playback. We still have not tested that as there is no compatible headset with it, but if Hiby made it, I'm curious to review it as soon as they have a matching headphone or EM. It takes about 2 hours to charge the Hiby R4 and it has a battery life between 7 and about 10 hours of playback. Of course, if you are using the balanced output and if you are using harder to drive headphones or EMs, so high impedance or low impedance, the extremes will always consume more battery and you will get even 6 hours if you are really pushing it to the max. But it's okay, that is about the same as I'm getting with the iBexo DX126, so most DAPs have a similar degree of battery life, give or take. Hiby tends to integrate the software functions very well, so they actually make the software for a few other companies, including Hiby, for example, and with R4 I have noticed that I don't have any lag, I don't have any hiccups, no apps crashing, everything is just working perfectly. So there is nothing negative to report when it comes to the operating system stability. The most important tool when reviewing the software, for me at least, would be the USB DAC, because I use DAPs a lot as USB DACs and there is no USB DAC delay. It doesn't cut the first second of each song, and even when playing from the internal memory you get the entire song, so no second cuts, nothing, no problems, everything is working perfectly, and that is super fun to see. Since the back doesn't sit flush, I would have expected a little camera here, but once again I wouldn't use a DAP as anything else but a DAP. I want this to be a device that plays music, and I really don't do much else with it because I do have a smartphone which is the S23 Ultra still, and the S23 Ultra serves me well for basically everything else. So even for playing games I wouldn't really use the R4 at all, because the display is just smaller and I don't think it would be more practical. It would offer a better sonic quality, but I don't play that many games on smartphone. I do play games on my computer, then I can use this as a USB DAC, so I can take advantage of its ability. Now, coming to the sonic part, we do have a pretty strong headphone output at about 500 milliwatts of power for the balanced output for a 32 ohm impedance, although it isn't quoted whether that is per channel or for both channels combined. Also, we do have about below 200 milliwatts of power for the single-ended headphone output, which, as I said, is quite low. So the single-ended headphone output is quite quiet. You need to pump the volume quite a lot if you are using the single-ended headphone output, but it has no background hissing, which was pleasing to hear. The balanced headphone output has an audible background hissing. You will hear a bit of hissing in the background. Also, if you are using it with a computer and if it is the USB DAC, you will hear the noise coming from the computer if the USB port is noisy. That is a problem with your computer and it will be audible. It is with mine. I do have that problem, so something to take into account. There is a little LED light which shows you that it is turned on, which I found pretty cool. Not many have this. Basically everything works really well when it comes to the operating system, and when it comes to the sound, keep in mind that it is priced at $249. So don't forget the price class, because if I'm comparing it straight against the iBexo DX260, it wouldn't be fair. This one costs about $1,000, so $949. There is a high price difference between them. This is why I have to go and grab some of the more affordable DAPs when doing comparisons. When comparing it to the market standard, for example, Hiby's AP80 Pro X or Hiby Digital M300, the performance of the R4 is much better actually, because it has a higher driving power, it has balanced headphone output in 4.4mm format, and it also has a better dynamic range, more punchiness in the sound, and while it doesn't have quite as much perceived bass as the Hiby Digital M300, it does have a better impact than both of the other two DAPs at about $200. The sound of the R4 can be described as pretty natural. It has a pretty strong bass in my opinion. I've read that some people found it to be lacking, but I simply don't seek so much bass when I'm paying $249. What I seek is a balanced sound, and it does deliver that quite well. Here I have the EMs that made me consider that it's quite natural, so this is the sounds Flame, which is not quite the flagship, which is the Sounds Avant, but it's a pretty high-end model from them. So this model struggles a bit with getting enough bass and enough treble in the sound. With Hiby R4, I'm getting just the perfect amount of bass and the perfect amount of treble. Since this is a color DM, it means that the Hiby R4 will be a bit bright with most DMs. So I will not contradict what other people have found about the sound. It's pretty much true. It is a pretty neutral, kind of generalist sounding DAP, but it will combine well with most DMs in the price range. So it will give them a brighter treble, which should help with enhancing the detail and perceived resolution. This is a big point for the R4. It will always sound very detailed for the price tag it has, but it also has a pretty full and pretty controlled bass. If the bass isn't quite that much because it doesn't have much coloration, it is very controlled, no distortion, and it is very powerful for the price. So it will be able to pack a punch in the EM or in the headphones, as long as you don't expect it to sound very warm or very colored. One thing that I like a lot about it is that it really sounds more clean than you would expect at the price point. So while most DAPs go for sounding more musical or more romantic, R4 goes for sounding as clean and as crisp as possible. And it actually delivers that quite nicely. It delivers a sound which is about as wide as it is deep, so it has a pretty rounded overall presentation, and the instrument separation is very good for the price point, but don't get me wrong, I typically use the DX260 on a daily basis, so you could expect the R4 to perform not quite as good. Even Hiby has more high-end models, and we are really hopeful that you'll get to review those. The Hiby R4 delivers a better instrument separation, a wider and a deeper soundstage than both the Hidesis AP80 Pro X or the Hiby Digital M300, so the performance is better than the price point would suggest. And that is what matters at the end of the day. If you ask me directly what is the best one, the Hiby R4 isn't going to win an award for being the best sounding DAP I've heard, but it is not the priciest either. It simply is here to fight the basically entry-level to mid-range market, where I think it delivers a very good performance. I think that if you are looking for a DAP which has EQ, which has good USB DAC function, which has good support for apps, a fast Wi-Fi chip, which works well with basically everything you can throw at it, the Hiby R4 is a really good investment. If you're looking for a DAP which sounds the best out there, you will have to spend a bit more, because at least my ears have been tainted and I've heard much better even from Hiby. For example, the Hiby R6 Mark III, and they have more flagships. You are justified to spend more on those. But if you have $249, you can get a really good experience with the R4, as long as you are driving mostly EMs. I think that it is not quite enough for power-hungry headphones. It may be a bit underwhelming, especially with planar magnetic headphones, so no HiFiMan Aria Organic, no HiFiMan Ananda with the R4, no HA1000 Special Edition, but with headphones which are easier to drive, for example the Crozone CZ10, Crozone CZ8A, or even the Koni Blue or the Koni Cobalt, the Hiby R4 is a great matchup. This is a fully recommended music player. It is a music player which is fun. It is not minimalistic, it is actually pretty maximalistic, so you get a rich package, good selection of features, and of course you get the strong support of Hiby. You should expect this to survive quite a lot. And don't forget, although they don't really mention this, the back part is easily removable, so with a bit of tinkering, non-official, but off the record with a bit of tinkering, you will be able to replace the battery down the line, so it should survive quite a few years of usage. Hiby products generally live up to usage quite well, so they typically survive in someone's collection for 4, 5, 6 years if they take care of them and if they don't drop it, if they don't damage it in any way. I hope that you are enjoying your time at Audiophile Heaven. Please do subscribe if you want to see more videos. Also, please like the video so that the algorithm will help other people find this video, especially if you find it relevant, and if I am helping you, I will try to have purchase links in the video description so that you can grab yourself an R4 and maybe I can earn a penny as an Amazon affiliate, because Audiophile Heaven is independent, my opinions are independent, and I hope they will be of help to you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye!